GMODISM. Well, hello, and you are most welcome back to the GMODISM channel. This is your host Eric, and today we are going to look at how the Fafnir was created. Because when I built the Fafnir, I saved it in iterations so that we can watch the process, which is pretty cool. And I'm sure you want to see how I thought when I made this battleship, and also, well, what may lie behind its very good performance against, well, did you see the latest battle on the GMODISM channel and the mixed performance on the GMODISM channel? Well, let's dive into it, and do know that you can go down into the description of this video and download the Fafnir today, and I will be very happy if you give it a nice review on Steam, so it will get in the top list. For the first iteration here, we can see we basically have just a big slab. This is how we usually build ships. And I started to design some type of armor. So as you can see here, we have a pretty weird type of angle here, which is mostly a type of bulkhead, like explosive missiles / torpedo bulkhead. If it hits into the side, we will get the explosion pretty far away from the main armor. Because when I built the Gimli class, I did notice that the Gimli class is pretty vulnerable against torpedoes, since the torpedoes will get pretty close to the main armor and can really help the other guns get it down. So this is just the surface layer to detonate stuff, and of course this will make hash damage extremely weak. And so for some type of flotation and stuff, we have wood. I try to build a design that doesn't rely too much on alloy, since alloy is pretty expensive float. Now, stone can be a pretty good interior armor. It's heavy though, but it's also fireproof. And yeah, when I built the Gimli, the fire update wasn't out yet, so that was not a consideration for the Gimli class. So we also have a little bit of an onion armor, so that it will be a little bit more defended against plasma. I don't even remember if plasma was out when I started building this, but whatever, whole point, you know. And you will see that later that was not the final armor we actually went with, but whatever, we'll check that out later. Now, I started to shape the hull of the ship, of the Fafnir, and we do have this armor right now. We do have a little base plate of alloy for extra flotation, but also some strength, since damage coming from below is pretty rare. But here we can already see the general shape of the Fafnir, looking pretty modern and sleek. I wanted some pretty sharp angles to get some deflection capabilities of my surfaces, so that some CRAMs or some, what is it, like armor piercing shells would bounce. And with the third iteration, we have fleshed out the front side a little bit, added some smoke and decoy, and you can see that this top decking of the ship will basically not see any, like, it doesn't need to be really armored, so I decided to go with a little bit cheaper blocks, the slopes. And also in the front, if we get some penetration here, we do have some nice angles taking the bulk of it, looking nice. And with the fourth iteration, we basically have the main ship shape, like the main hull, kinda fleshed out here. As you can see, we do have also inside of here, yeah, that was before, whatever. We have added in some EMP surge protectors as well. And as well in the back here, we do have a little layer to keep explosives a little bit away from the middle. So the thought is, of course, to keep the main stuff inside this little square here in the middle. basically we are doing Citadel theory. If you don't know your ship terms, that is defending your most important part and kind of shitting on the rest. We have also placed hardpoints for where the azipods will go, because that is of course going to be what we're going to use to make it a little bit more maneuverable, or at least more maneuverable like the Gimle, by just having more azipods in the front and back than the Gimle. In the 5th iteration, we have added our battleship engines and some ammunition also all around the thing. And these battleship engines are a humongous 3 or 4 stage engine. I have a specific video, a showcase about my new engines when this was made, but it's basically a pretty material efficient engine that uses superchargers, and when they run out of power, they will funnel its things to a like turbocharger engine, reusing a lot of that. And if that doesn't give enough power, it will go to an injector engine, which does also boost the turbocharger engines to make it a little less useless. And all of it gets finally recycled in a little Eber supercharger recycling station here in the back. I think they have a max capacity of some 10,000. No, it's more. Yeah, they are pretty strong, and we have 4 of them since we do plan to use a laser. The exhaust is usual from the depth faction. Usual from the depth fashion. Exhausted underneath the vehicle right into the ocean to make the fish very happy by giving them carbon dioxide, like fizzy water, you know? Soda? We're making soda for the fish. Are we surprised there are no fish in From the Depth? I don't think so. As for the 6th iteration, we have started to compartmentalize the areas around the engines, and we have spawned in a couple of guns to see what we're going to use. We have a Vigoletta Seawiz gun, and we have a smaller Vigoletta Seawiz gun. We have a burst flak Seawiz gun to take out doom crams. And this is... what is this? This is a frag spammer. And we also have the Sandblaster guns, Fort SA, tall and short versions. And these guys are gonna be our main guns. We have now also placed out the shields in the 7th iteration, and the shields will be protecting the ship from most stuff, and we're also going to use a smart side switching thing so that only the shields that are on the side facing the enemy will be online at that time. We are also experimenting some with extra steam engines, since we do want a very redundant steam engine. I, at this point, like years ago, realized that you can have one input on one side and one input on the other side, and both of them help the serial engine to kind of run, which makes this kind of engine extremely redundant, which made it so that I wanted to have these as a type of auxiliary engine besides our fuel engine engines. So here we have that implemented. We do have a boiler going up with a smart little tube, and we have some steam valves here, and we are then powering this series of pistons from 2 ways simultaneously, where one way is basically powered from the excess of this thing. So to make that understandable, we have some type of setup where, like, now it's not added here, but we have one input here, and that goes into this engine, and then the exhaust of that goes from this engine, and that gets recycled in this engine. And yeah, we kind of, it's smart, okay? It's smart. And we have started to place the main guns. Isn't that very cute? It's a bit tall. Also, the burst flag Seawiz guns have taken their place, being able to shoot down almost any Doom CRAM. Maybe. And for the ninth iteration, maybe it's pronounced, I don't know. I'm not. No hablo inglés. So yes, we have placed the main guns, and I have started to shape out a nice right modern angle to kind of see where I want the guns and trying to make the armor fit together in a neat little way. This took some time. I decided to also use 7-meter heavy armor ducts, so we have some big slabs protecting the engines. No, not the engines, protecting the turrets. Yes, that is right. So this is kind of the placement. Okay, yes, next part. And as you can see here on the 10th iteration, we basically have, now we're up to 700,000 materials in cost. As you can see, we do have a armor cost of a lot, but yeah. The main guns are kind of getting in places here. And is anything different from the previous version? We have encapsulated that stuff. Okay. I don't know, man. Next. 11th iteration. It starts to look like the thing. I here decided to mass replace the blocks so that we are using fleet colors, and it suddenly looks a lot cooler. Here I also realized that it would be really cool to have a little groove here, and it would also protect us from heat and HESH shells so that they don't go through to the turrets in case they shoot very close to the turret being joined, you know, to the turret heads. So I thought that was really smart to have this little groove to kind of have it as a, well, gap. Basically a gap. So if a shell come like this, it says it's a heat shell. It doesn't go straight to the turret and injects it here. It instead gets spawned here. Isn't that cool? I thought so, at least. Which is, I guess, what this video is about. What I thought when I built this. So, yeah, there we have it. 12th, I can't speak. The 12th iteration. We have a pretty sleek shape. I really tried to use all of my brain cells to be able to somehow piece together a sloping situation to make it work. I think it works at least, and yeah, so this is what we're going to have. I'm also very happy with this part here where the gold line almost melts out here in the back. I thought that was a little cool addition. And yeah, you can clearly see it's starting to look like the Fafnir for real here. Also, this is here for some reason, a little Seawiz gun. Well, little does it know that the auxiliary secondary laser output will be there later. Also, I fixed the images on, I removed the old Imgur links and made them instead self-hosted links so that they can be displayed. Isn't that cool? We now have a steam engine, auxiliary steam engine there. We also, I think, did add our auxiliary steam engine somewhere here, did we not? We didn't. Don't we have one there? I don't know. As for the 13th iteration, I thought that my guns need a little bit of an upgrade, so I kind of removed them to place them down later. And I started to think about, what are we going to do with the sides? Where are we going to have the superstructure? And how is this thing even going to work? Well, important questions. I did decide that we have a new fresh charged plasma cannon that I just made at this point. So I thought, yes, I want a charged plasma cannon releasing some early battle swaying nukes on the enemy. And I thought, this is going to be a side switching ship. and I like my new broadside guns. This is also in a showcase video if you want to see these, but I made some pretty compact APS, diff APS broadside guns, so I just wanted to have an excuse to, you know, actually use them, because these guys are cool, man. 14th iteration. The ship has been updated a lot. We do have the main shape of the ship being formed already. The guns are back in action with a slight little upgrade to them, so that they are now a little bit better and a little bit better armored as well. Yeah, well, whatever. So that is cool. Now the ship does cost about 1 million materials. And I'm starting to get worried, because this is going to be a 2.2 million battleship, and it's very clear I kind of underestimated how not dense I build things, and this is smaller than the Gimli, but it's, man, only 1 million materials, and we already placed our main guns. What the hell? What are we gonna do? So, yeah. We have a CRAM cannon now in the front here. That's a CRAM cannon to tease the enemies, nothing more. Here we have the 15th iteration of the ship, and I have just continued to add things. I added 200,000 materials worth of laser parts, because I thought, okay, we're only 1 million now, and we already placed our main guns. Well, that's a bummer. Let's boost the thing with a crazy laser. Let's have the same type of scary laser the Gimli class has, and maybe it will just work, as the famous game developer usually says, you know. Also, I added some cool armor here. This is my new AI core, and it's different prefabs. Inside here, we added the AI core. Inside, it's insulated, nice armor that's pretty hard to take out, which is amazing. Since, of course, these big blocks have a lot of health, so, you know. Not good as exterior armor, but pretty neat, nice to use as interior armor. Oh, and somehow I forgot to show you that the azipods are in place, and the ship is now going not slow. I like that. Here we have the 16th iteration, actually version 31 or whatever. We got our detection turrets, we got our teasing CRAM cannons. Ladies and gentlemen, these CRAM cannons are a complete nuisance to basically make the enemy use up their CWIS capabilities, because these shoot every 3-4 seconds. Just spamming out the tiny CRAM shells, nothing to worry about, doesn't really hurt you, but, you know, they will kind of mask themselves as Doom CRAMs and make the enemy shoot out its interceptors and its diff civs and whatnot, to take these guys out, and the poor bastards will cry, because that's what they are meant for, you know. Teasing the enemy with tiny CRAM. I don't know if there's anything new here. I mean, it's more expensive and stuff. Next. And here at the 17th iteration, we do have a cost of 1.2 million. I'm still panicking about that. Did I show you the extra diff guns? I don't know. They will be removed later anyways. For our Gimli class tournament, what rank are you now? I can't remember from the top of my head. Master Matrus, maybe? Omicron did make a really cool window for a ship of his, and that was really cool. I got super inspired, and I made my own version. Behind these mimicry, we actually have a camera that has clear line of sight, so it's actually a glass block. It just looks cool. And I decided to add a bunch of them and hide some laser trackers inside of there, to hopefully give a really good visual on the enemy. Very nice. Love these little windows. They are cool. Good idea from Omicron. Also, another teaser thing. And I'm also starting to seriously think about what the hell are we going to do with a superstructure? But that's gonna be a later issue because we do have a ship that's, you know, it's not slow. Look at that, 45, 46. And when we start turn, can you see? We are not turning slow, mate. This is a-okay for a battleship. Well, we still get outmaneuvered by hydrofoils, but you know, it's more maneuverable than many battleships. 18th iteration. I have started to slap rocks together until a sort of superstructure has started to form. It looks silly, but it's going to end up being a kind of passenger vehicle, so this will be the passenger hull, because obviously this won't be a grand feasting hull like the Gimli has, so the only use I could come up with later was having this be basically an armored transport ship. Like personal transport, you know, a ferry. Yeah, well, whatever. We did add our Vigoletta Suez gun inside of there, and we did, you know, we hid some shit here and some extra detection turrets, and I tried to be cheesy smart here, building the superstructure out of like tetras, because I quickly realized that, oh my lord, this is heavy, this is gonna make the whole ship sit really low in the water and it's gonna look like shit, so I need to make the superstructure light. But I want to make it out of metal for aesthetical reasons, and I don't want to cover everything with mimics because that would be silly. Solution, tetras, you're welcome. Iteration number 19. 1.3 million materials. I absolutely have no solution how to beef up the firepower yet. I'm starting to imagine that maybe the ship will be so darn good that it will just own its way against the Gimli class, even if it's like 1 million materials. I didn't have those hopes for very long, because eventually I spawned in the Gimli and realized that Fafnir gets its ass handed to itself in this state. So now you know that. And we have this interesting cluster here. Oh my. Yeah, so it looks kind of thick and nice, but it's actually just you know, sheeting all the build codes, getting sued to oblivion type of building quality here. But beautiful. Can we call this tofu dreg superstructure? That would make sense. Next iteration. Iteration number 20. The superstructure is taking shape, we have nice windows, and I have started to install the laser cannon. The laser cannon is a new development from the GMODISM Industries, giving you laser on a stick. Very handy because it can be installed in multiple battleships and stick out like a stupid little thing in the middle somehow, have a long barrel and not look shit. That's the sales pitch, okay? And here we have it. And some desperate armor to make it not shoot, like fall off. Iteration number 21, we have made the laser turret that kind of looks nice-ish. As you can see here, we did use some light blocks to be able to have this little thing standing on top. And it gives its nice little laser beam like this. We also managed to stick in some detection and tracking inside of this, making it pretty nice sitting here on top of the torpedo superstructure. Anyways, the front gun was removed at some point, and I decided to instead have an auxiliary laser output. One, to target the aircraft that comes in so we don't get, you know, killed. But also, if this gets shot out, what the hell are we gonna do? We don't have a secondary output. It's apparent from the battles, which are of course ongoing as I'm building this ship. I'm building this ship while I also record the Gimli battles. It was just a secret for all of you, except some of you that are supporters to the channel, that I even was building this thing. So I realized we need to have a secondary output as a backup, and here we have it, secondary output. Turns out the front of the ship pretty rarely gets targeted. So yeah, big thanks to all of you that are supporting the channel, everyone in the Ecclesiarchy of GMODISM that is YouTube members, everyone in the Army of GMODISM, most notably you see their names on the screen right now, and of course the cadets, and if anyone new joined, and the government of GMODISM as well. Big thank you all to those who support the channel. Taking inspiration from some of the battles we had, I don't remember the ship in my head right now, but we had some pretty cool rotating radar decoys on a ship that did end up being a very good targeting point for heat-seeking missiles and radar missiles and stuff like that, prolonging the life of the ship that had it. So I built some before, and they are now added to the Fafnir class. To beef out the early game firepower, we've decided to go with the Trident, I think it's called. Don't quote me on that, it's on the files. Diff gun. Very nice. Triple barrel diff gun that looks very cute. I've used it on a lot of ships by now. It's an old design, but I really like it. Well, whatever. The cost of the ship is now 1.4 million, and I have no idea how we should beef out the firepower yet, because of course, show me a place where I should have a turret. Like, point to a place where we can fit a turret. That's the issue. It's too small. Unless you have turrets under the ship, Eric, did you think about that? No, I didn't. Didn't actually think of it until now, so that's embarrassing. Well, in some desperate trying to forget about trying to even make a good battleship, I instead focused on filling out the shape here, making it look half decent. So yeah, now you can see we now have basically a full Fafnir class ship. It kind of looks like it looks right now, with some minor tweaks and of course a lot of upgrades to make it actually be able to fight, because it's like 1.5 million now. Yeah, with everything filled out. We did even add a lot of civs or interceptors all over the place, which is the main reason the cost is now like 100k higher. And here we have next iteration. We have started to get some AI routines and stuff. And I have started to experiment on how to make this more expensive. So I decided if we add a shit ton of missiles below the ship, it may be able to actually have firepower. Turns out having things being, you know, front facing like this turned out to be a pretty bad idea, because they tended to blow up on itself and, you know, make a mess. Iteration number 25 is actually like version 53. So the final version is version 100. Isn't that neat? So you can imagine how much time we spend on tweaking, or I spent on tweaking tiny things that, well, basically amounts for the last 50 iteration. But there is only a few iterations to show you here. And I started to put in some VLM missiles, and look at this decoration, a little drop of gold there. Anyways, I started to add VLM missiles, incendiary missiles, to be able to boost the firepower from the guns here. We do have interceptors and stuff all over the place, and more VLM missiles right here, as you can see, to provide some extra firepower. We are now up in 2 million cost. And we have beautiful rings around the turrets. So for our next iteration, I realized the missiles are not gonna work, and we do sometimes tilt in the water when we are being shot at by a Megalodon, because I tested this thing a lot against the Megalodon, just for, you know, easy testing. So we added some fins here in the side. And I decided to instead have missiles firing to the side. And that was what we ended up with using. Also, a neat little torpedo system has been added that shoots torpedo downwards and looks generally cool. Looking cool just like this. And they are remote guided missiles, so we have a lot of remote guidance there. And they ended up being a pretty cool thing. As you can see, they go out like that to the sides. And I ended up having to tweak them a lot, because if we don't tweak them, they will end up basically colliding at the side of the ship and stuff. So there is that. But you can see they're looking pretty neat. They also go in the water and in the air. Isn't that cool? For the iteration number 28, I had the brilliant idea of adding my newly built paddles we made for the Pirate Adventure mode thing. Because I thought paddles, it will look like a longship. That will be super cool. So that is just what we added. And we have continued to make it look a little bit... You know, we have some visual upgrades all over the place. We do have some more interceptors and stuff like that. So we're starting to get together a ship that's useful-ish. And I don't remember how many changes we have in the armor during this time, so we're going to look at the final armor later. So we are almost done here, and here we have a candidate for ship version number 28. We don't need to look at that. We just added 100,000 here, and what I basically did was upgrade the armor because I realized we still have a lot of materials to go. So we could use some of that material to just beef up the armor a bit and make it survive a little bit longer that way. It's not really my style of doing shit, but, well, this time it was. So we have added a band of heavy armor. That's what costs 100,000, is having beam slopes of heavy armor around the main armor belt of the Fafnir class. This is not my style really, but this is what I ended up doing this time because I had some materials to spend. So there we have it. We are closing in on a 2 million ship, and as you can see, we have more VLM missiles than last we checked, I think. I don't really know, but it's starting to take shape, which is the most important thing. The interior still looks like shit, but whatever. And we still had a lot of materials to spend, so I decided to add heavy armor slabs on the outside of the ship, make sure that all of the turret heads are armored with heavy armor in the front, and yeah, basically beefing it up like that. A lot of details was added last version or this version, and you can see here the windows now look decent. Interior is taking shape. So we are getting places. Behold. So here we have it, the Fafnir class Mark 1. Don't worry about Mark 2, that's a cheap version that I'm gonna use in the campaign later. This is the proper Mark 2 version 100, which is the one you find on Steam Workshop. So let's load her in. And at this point I also held a democratic vote on the... it's not democratic, I just call it that. On YouTube posts, where I asked all of you which name did you like of the four suggested by the army of GMODISM. And Fafnir it was, and Fafnir is a dragon. So we have dragon heads in true Viking fashion decoration. We have a nice dragon thing that I put together myself. We have a nice dragon like snake thing here. We have ooh, shiny emblem, look at that. Anyways, we have Viking shields like a dragon ship, you know, a Viking ship, which does fit very well with the oars as well, because they used those as well. We do have a nice entrance. We have lights telling starboard from port, and we have basically have a way to get into the ship. You can see here It's looking nice. We have some drinks there. This is, as said, a ferry passenger ship to transport people between places, and having it be a bit beefed up with guns makes the journey much safer, you know. At least if you're a broadsword. Well, in any case, we have beautiful Viking artwork from Borderwise inside of here too, and it says, "Where is that stupid dragon?" Var är den där dumma draken? Which is really funny because this is obviously the Gimli class, but now we also have a dragon thing. Isn't that poetic? GMODISM, like Eric, I don't think you know what poetic means, but whatever. Don't mind my alter egos arguing with each other. We have beautiful decorations, which is the most important things, and these spin faster because that provided better results in battle testing. So yeah, we should also look at the armor here. And as you can see, this is the cut-through view. As said, I had some extra materials to use, so this is not wood inside of here. It's instead alloy. And yeah, we have different layers of alloy and wood here to kind of make it useful. We use more alloy in the interior of the ship, and we do use that as a kind of what's it called, like interior armor, or yeah, inner armor. Alloy is very good at that. Stone is of course cheaper, but alloy gives float, and adding all this heavy armor made us really need the float. And as I did just do that a lot, why not spawn in a Megalodon so you can kind of see it in action? And you can see here that the shields on this side of the ship is activated, and the shields on the other side of the ship is deactivated because it only activates itself where it's needed to. And here you can see the CRAM cannons spamming CRAM shells, and our sandblasting guns doing the sand blasting. Most of the sandblasting shells are proper drilling shells. They're pretty accurate with the double fins, and one of them is actually HESH, and that aims at the same place as the laser, because in my testing it was pretty effective at taking out barrels or turrets. All of the guns on the Fafnir class is basically aiming above water. Since very few people use decoy missiles, we don't have signal processors or anything like that. We do rely on a good bit of sonar and radar-guided missiles. So if you want to counter the Fafnir for your own designs, do know that you can trick most of their missiles by having decoy, like large decoys, sonar decoys, and radar decoys. Here you can see the broadside is getting in here and doing frag damage, because the broadside is frag. The laser does burn a good bit, and if you can see here, we have that's the HESH variant, and here you can see the Sabot variant for good drilling capabilities. Oh, and during the build of this, I did realize that having proximity fuses on shaped charge missiles really messes them up. So that we did remove. So here you can see the hollow point guns from the Meg. Really uses up most of its force on this bulkhead area. And again, Megalodon is probably the ship I tested the Fafnir class against the most. Oh, and our VLM interceptors, you can see them go up like this. They look like tiny arrows. They're pretty effective. Now, of course, not all of them Like, some missiles go through, but you can see our decoys are doing a pretty good job also at confusing the missiles. Well. Oh, and here you can see this side is actually a bit more hurt. It even started to dig into the laser here. So, the Fafnir class decided to do a side switch. Isn't that very intelligent? It has that setting, and in some battles, against some very maneuverable hydrofoils and stuff, it will probably not have the opportunity to use that. But in this case, it can use it. And you can see that the shields are now activated against this side instead, which is very neat. And it also means we do have a fresh broadside to use, which comes in here. We're pretty far away now, all of these fragmentation shells. We're so far away that some of them just completely missed, but whatever, they have a few shots more to fire. Anyways, Fafnir is at 93% and the Megalodon is at 85%. And the Megalodon is really sad if you just knock off 10% from it. You can see that a lot of the guns aren't really functioning anymore. And yeah, they're doing a good job at taking out these guns. Most of the VLM missiles are incendiary missiles, and that's of course to make the blocks more weak against sandblasting and, you know, tiny damage like that. I was actually almost putting it on heavy head shells instead of sabot shells, because when things are on fire, heavy heads are actually better. But I ended up using the sabot heads instead, because a lot of the angled armor on ships like the Megalodon makes the heavy heads bounce off too often, which is really bad for our winning statistics, you know. And that, my ladies and gentlemen, is the story behind the Fafnir class. Download her on the Steam Workshop and give her a nice little rating, so hopefully we can see her on the front page. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did, please do subscribe. Only like 10% of my audience is actually subscribed. So if you're one of those unsubscribed heathens, well, do subscribe today. Other than that, AOG Invictus, and may the Fafnir fight valiantly in the rest of the Gimle tournament.